In this video, I'm going to quickly finish up the inner part of the mouth and then move on to the construction of the teeth and the tongue. So at this point, I'm going to speed up the playback just a bit more to kind of shorten this video. Just moving back and forth between the build brush and the pinch brush. Switching to the grow brush for a little bit. Let's go back to the mill brush. And I switch to a sharp brush alpha for working on creases like this. Should also mention that sometimes when you're working in tight, confined spaces like this, you may want to turn steady stroke off if you actually have it turned on. And you'll know when you have it active because you'll notice a small trail extending from behind your brush. Skipping forward just a little bit, I've created a layer for the teeth and a layer for the tongue, and I've clicked on the curves tool to make it active. And as you're hovering over an object, if you right click and drag to scale your brush radius, 3D Coat is going to use that brush size to dictate just how large your initial point is. I'm using my bracket keys now to adjust the size of the brush or the point whenever I'm hovering out in 3D space. And when you're in orthographic view, 3D Coat again is going to make that point line up perpendicular to the camera. And as I've mentioned in other videos, you can click anywhere along a curve in order to create an intermediate point. And when you click on the node, you'll see a gizmo appear that lets you make different transform edits. In this case, I'm squashing the individual nodes using the scale widgets for the individual axes. Scale that end point down quite a bit. And hit apply. Now what I'm going to do is reuse this curve as a cutting object to make the inner part of the tooth somewhat hollow, because I believe these front two teeth, if you will, are more like claws rather than just teeth. At least that's the way they appear to be in the sketches. The other teeth will be nice and round, but again, these front two large teeth will be more like claws. This is a bit of an odd design in terms of you don't really see it in nature, but I presume part of this hollowing out or making this a claw is to provide a little bit of space for that lower front tooth to fit inside of this hollowed area. And with the control key held down, I'm going to hit the apply button. Alternatively, you could just hold down the control key and hit the enter key as well. And you could repurpose this if you want. I think what I'm going to do is just start from scratch by clicking on each individual hole or well for the teeth. And what I did there is I need to click create new curve each time. Without doing that, each successive click is just going to continue the line that you've created. And once we've created these on one side, we'll copy them over using the instancer, or we could use sim copy. So all you have to do is just click on a point to drag out the other point, and now we can just go on each individual tooth and click on the end point, scale it down, click somewhere along the curve and create an intermediate point to add that curvature. And click on that one to see the gizmo. Reposition it just a bit. And without a gizmo, once more, as I mentioned previously in other videos, you can scale on the fly by right-click and dragging over a point. Middle mouse click and drag to actually move in screen space. I'll go ahead and speed up the playback at this point in order to try and keep this video as concise as possible. It's pretty much the same process going through all of these, but I think this is probably the quickest way to go, or just reuse an individual tooth object that you may have stored in your models palette. And one thing I'm trying to do is scale along an individual axis that's perpendicular to the camera to not make them so perfectly round. I want them to be skewed just a little bit. And repositioning the end point to give it a little bit of curvature toward the inside of the mouth, actually. Just a slight bit of curvature. So now what I want to do is make a child layer by clicking on the plus icon on the side of the teeth layer. I'll double click on this child layer and rename it upper row. I'm going to apply a few levels of resolution so that when I hit the apply button, it's going to have plenty of resolution to keep that sharp point on the object. So click clear all, and now I can see the result. Now I think I'm going to change the parent layer name to upper teeth. That way it's going to include that front tooth as well as that upper row on the side. So I just collapsed it on the very left side of the layer. You can see that plus or minus icon, and that will let you hide the child layers. So I just created a new layer, named it lower teeth, and I'm going to do the same thing, create a child layer from that. Give that a few levels of resolution. The smaller the object, the more you'll need to increase the resolution on the layer itself before you hit the apply button. That's very important to remember. I'll click on the duplicate layer icon, and I'll just change the name. I'll click on that last layer and give it some extra resolution. I'll click on the front tooth layer, click on the curves tool, and we'll do the same thing on the bottom. Go to an orthographic view. And I'll reduce my brush size by using my left bracket key and clicking out in space to create that initial endpoint. Since this process is essentially the same as what we did with the upper teeth, I'm going to speed up the playback once more. Let's go ahead and apply. clear all. Probably want to smooth this a few times. Hit the space bar and check smooth all at the very bottom. You can scroll to the bottom of the tool panel as well to do the same thing. And we'll begin with the same process we did with the upper teeth. Remembering to click New Curve each time you want to create a new point. Remember to drag out a curve from an existing node. You simply just have to left mouse click and drag from that point. Looks like we're about done. Next thing you want to do is click on the lower row layer and then hit apply. Now that that's done, this would be a good point to stop the video and we'll pick it up in the next one. Thank you for watching. We'll see you there.